my parents were not role models because my parents lived in a environment so different from ours that we can't imagine when I'm growing up I like to be like my dad. I mean it's so actually we looked up to our club leaders at the Y, or sometimes they were good at athletics, and so we can say, well, when I grow up, we can't look at that far ahead actually, but when I grow up, I'd like to be like my club leader, somebody that's popular and so on. But we never saw any Chinese professionals. I mean, there was one or two doctors, and we didn't actually have too many people that we experienced personally that said, when I grow up, I like to be like Uncle John, right? Because we had no. So even when like when I was in college, I thought I would be like I want to be an engineer, but that's because I don't know. I mean, I have no experience. I didn't even know that there are civil engineers and mechanical engineers. I never actually went to the library and read up on. So we had, when we were growing up, we had very few people that can help us to say, when I grow up, I like to be like. So when I got active in the church and the Y, and I decided, no, I think I like to work with people. So that means I might be a social worker, or a school teacher, or a minister, or something like that. Then, even for a minister, the Chinese minister that baptized me, he was also the principal of the Chinese school. I mean, he preached on Sunday, but like, we never had any relationship with him. I mean, to us, he's like a disciplinarian. And so I had no, even if I was thinking about a minister, being a minister, we had missionaries, and you know, Sia Dow and Oscar Peterson, but they were not role models for being a minister. Right? But we did have an interim minister that came in toward the late 40s, and he was a student at the seminary, but he had already like pastored a church for about 10 or 12 years and went back to seminary for a graduate degree. And he was the first minister I encountered that preached, actually did pastoral work, invited people to have conferences with him. He helped to relate us to the denomination. So I think if I were to think of, well, how do you become a minister in an American Baptist church? I mean, he comes closest. It was my first experience of like what a minister ought to be like. So I did learn a lot from him in retrospect, but like P.K. Chow helped me with my Chinese. C.D. Allen was a perfect example of somebody that was very person-oriented. And then Oscar Peterson taught me that you can't actually lead a church if you're not helping people to be disciples. I mean, Oscar Peterson was very evangelistic oriented. I mean, it's not just enough to be teaching, you know, you have to help people to become disciples. So Oscar Peterson is very good at a good model for that.
Do you have any?
So all through my life, I have different people who, for short periods of time, you know, have influenced me.
Do you have any current day role models, or a current day role model?
Well, I think of Harold Zhao, you know, the pastor at the, he, you know, when he was the president of, the chairman of Confab, he was the one that organized our trip to the East. And Confab, for me, most of us who are Chinese ministers at that time, we're not risk takers. You know, we don't, we're scared of people. We don't venture out too much. And Harold Zhao is kind of fearless. I mean, he just took a trip back east and visited all these places, set up all this itinerary. Now, at that time, I would never see myself as doing that. I mean, I didn't have that kind of a confidence to go around assuming that, because we grew up in a very restricted environment, we're easily intimidated by everybody, by waiters, by clerks at the store. I mean, we were not, so it's only later in life, you know, that we developed the kind of self-confidence that we should have gotten much earlier. I said, gee, my grandchildren are more confident at age 15. When they go to the restaurant, they order with confidence, right? So we were actually very late in developing emotionally and socially. I would say people like me and people my generation were very backward compared to our children and our grandchildren. They're used to socializing, they're used to taking initiative. They can make things happen. They see, like for example, the Chinese never took part any student body activity in Galileo High School. I mean, it's just a white person thing. We never go to the dances, we wouldn't take part in anything. So that was pretty characteristic of my generation. But there were always people there that kind of help us develop our confidence.